that is my big message, is the oneness. I'm glad they mentioned that too, because that to me is, I think they even did a poll for the free. Did you do the free survey? Did you fill out that free survey of the 500 questions or whatever it was of the experiencers?
No,
Okay,
I
in
don't
there
remember that now.
they asked the people, what do you think's really going on? And 55% say they're really not too sure, but they think it has to do with oneness and love. So that would be something that people on the outside would, that's not the kind of thing you'd make up. If you say, why are the aliens here? You'd say, well, they're here to get our gold, or they're here to do, whatever. But that's kind of a weird thing. 55% say oneness and love, and you just mentioned that in the last couple of minutes, exactly the
Yeah.
same sort of message, that it appears that may be a big part of what this is all about.
Where was that questionnaire? I missed that one.
It's called the Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial and Extraordinary Experiences. It was started by Ray Hernandez, who's an IRS attorney in Miami, and Edgar Mitchell. And they put this
Wow.
together to look at experiences, because that's what you need to do, is to look at people like you and people who are interacting with the beings. You can watch all the videos you want, you can look at all the UFO sightings you want, you can whatever, but until you talk to people who have actually interacted with the beings, it's a total waste of
Yeah.
time. You are the people who are interacting. And yeah, a lot of people will say, well, you basically, you just think you had the experience. Well, it's all subjective. And but the experience that you have, if you have, and I think they have, I think now over 6,000 experiencers that have filled out these 600 questions, and that's where they ask them about all sorts of different things. Like, and maybe I could ask you some of the questions. Like, have you ever had an out of body experience?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think it's 70%, 72% or something of out of body experiences. Paranormal phenomena is like 90 some percent. A near death experience. Have you had a near death experience?
No, not that I.
Okay,
No.
37% have had near-death experiences. You mentioned the download. Now, this is my question. I'll just tell you what the figure is, and then I'd like to hear your download thing. 42% of all experiencers say at one point, no, 42% of experiencers say they have mathematical, technical, or scientific material in their head that they did not learn in school.
Right.
Can you
Yes.
describe your
Yes.
download experiences?
I don't. It's
What
kind
they
of like
mean?
when they download it. Yes. Yes. It's very mathematical, and when they download it to me, it's like I understand it completely, and then all of a sudden I forget it. And I said, "Well, why did I forget it?" They said, "Well, come. It will come. You will remember it when it's time."
Wow, that's
Yeah.
that's an absolute standard line they use all the time. In fact,
Really.
oh yeah, people will say, like, I've had people who will complain. They'll say they take me every night. I'm in some sort of school. They're teaching me all this stuff, and I got very upset. And I said to them, I don't remember this. Why? I need to sleep. Why are you wasting? Why are you doing this to me? And they say, when the time is right, you'll know what to do. They basically say the time
Yeah.
isn't right. And one of the things that you just mentioned again fits into this scenario. You said that they give you this stuff, it's all mathematical, and then you forget it. One of the statistics in the free survey says 40% of all people that answer the question said at one point during their experience they knew the answer to everything in the universe. That's not something
Wow.
you're going to make up. And that
I
when they
just
came
got
back, I would
chills.
ask the one guy and say, so how long did you remember that? And he'd say, not even a day. It started to slip away like a dream slips away. And now
Yeah.
all I remember is that at one point I knew everything, but I don't remember any of it. It's sort of like, you see these patterns that when you start looking at 6,000 experiencers, you realize this is important stuff, because there are these very direct answers that everybody's giving the same answer: oneness, love, downloads, the fact that we're destroying the planet. They've seen
Right.
39% of all experiencers have seen the screen. That's why I asked you, did you see the screen? 39% of
Yes.
experiencers say, yeah, I saw the screen. You don't have to explain what the screen
Yeah.
is. They know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that's where it's important for people to hear your story and other people like you, because if you want to know what's going on, that's the only way you can really find out about it. So you do get these mathematical things, but you don't remember them. And I think
No,
mathematics,
but you feel, I feel so intelligent. I remember that. I do remember a couple of words like molecular structure
yeah,
and things like that. But it's like I understand it completely, but then it's gone. It's
Yeah.
gone. It's
Do you think music is mathematical? Do you think there's something to
oh,
do with?
absolutely. It's totally mathematical.
Yeah,
Totally.
all ties to
And
the.
I had it was funny that in school I was always a B student until I learned algebra. And algebra I was an A student.
Oh,
It
I
was
remember you
so
saying.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so easy for me, and all the A students uh, became B students when they learned algebra.
Wow.
It was, and I asked the teacher. I said, "Well, what is this good for?" They said, "Astrophysics."
Wow.
I said, "Okay, that's why." And it was just so easy to me. It was like, "Well, this is like, so it
Wow.
was like too easy."
Fascinating.
Interesting. So yeah,
Fascinating. Yeah, you've got similar. You should maybe go over and if you want, I can actually send you some links to it where you can actually look at um, the various things that they ask about the matrix and how many experience
sure.
this, how many experience that. You start to see a lot of patterns that will sort of agree with what you've had. That people are, and it shows clearly that people are. They're not making this stuff up. They're all describing like say I always made the joke about when people say they remembered everything or they knew everything in the universe. Then I'd say, well, how can you make that up? Because I mean, you could say to them, well, how do you know there wasn't something on the far side of the galaxy, number 7, 8, 9, that they didn't tell you about? And people will say the same thing when I had my download experience. They'll just say, I don't know. I just know for sure. And I think
Huh,
can you confirm that you know it for certain. It's not like something is a good idea. It comes with absolute certainty. You know this is right. You don't have to figure this out when
right.
you get material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's and there's they said that I agreed to come down here for the mission to help. So I remember in bits and pieces, and I'm always very excited about the new projects that I think of or get downloaded. I'm not sure what it's kind of instantaneously, but well, actually, I should say they do give me these ideas or these projects, and sometimes they give me 3 or 4 projects at the same time, and I said, you guys gotta slow down.
Wow.
I'm only one person, and I have to explain to them the third dimension because they don't get it at all. They really don't because they can multitask up there. They can go boom, 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 and do 4 or 5 things in an instant where we can't. So I have to explain to them the third dimension, and they actually tell me how brave I am to even come down to this dense planet because they said it is a very violent planet, and a lot of them say that they wouldn't come here.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
that's in the poll too about the sole agreement that and I don't think they've actually done a stat on that, but I think that would be very important to. I asked, I think of Mary Rodwell, if you know Mary Rodwell from Australia, I asked her, if you were to regress everybody back, and she's done 3,000 regressions,
yes,
would everybody agree that they agreed to this? And she'd say, yeah. Everybody
yeah,
say, yeah, I agreed to this, which puts
yeah.
it
She's
into a perspective of whatever's happening to you, you have to take personal responsibility and not blame, I'm a poor victim or whatever. And it's,
right.
you start looking at things like, why would I agree to do this or be in this situation where everything becomes experience rather than you're a random sort of cork floating down the stream and being buffeted around by different forces that you are in control of your destiny.
Right. A lot of people ask me, well, why did are you chosen? I said, no, I wasn't chosen. I chose to be here. I chose for the mission. And
Yeah,
it's not, you're not forced to do anything. And a lot of times when people have negative experiences with ETs, I'm not saying all of them,
yeah,
I'm saying, but a lot of them is because of their fear of that situation. And like, for instance, Travis Walton, he was so much in fear for many, many years. And then he realizes when he released his fear of it, he says now, he goes, no, they were here, they were just making sure they didn't hurt me,
yeah, yeah,
and he's not in fear because it was, he said they were very benevolent beings. So
yeah.
he's waking up to really what happened with when he releases his fear. When you release that fear, you can really see clearly.
Good point. Yeah, because that is true. It's like I explained it as the left brain thing, where you're taking in fear into the ship, and you sort of manifest what happens. I think Ray Fernandez even did that with the reptilians, where in the free survey they have, I think the highest rate of negative ETs was reptilians. So in phase 3 of the study, they actually went back to the people who said that these were evil aliens, and they said, well, why do you think they're evil? And they say, because they scared the living daylights out of me. They were 8 feet tall, and it's like, and they said, that's it, that's it. And it's like, suddenly it's because they were just petrified, and that's understandable. But that was basically what it came down to. They were evil because they scared them. And but you got to realize that it's the idea that you've got this fear thing, and we see everything as sort of a threat rather than an experience. So
Right. They're kind
the
of
last thing I want
brainwashed.
to discuss with you is kind of important that you run a conference, a pretty successful conference that I just sort of learned about. So can you sort of detail the conference you run in Sedona,
Mhm.
when it runs, what type of people you try to bring in terms of what theme are you trying to get across, and how does that all worked out? And then maybe we can sort of look at some of the people you've brought in and what people have gained by this conference.
Well, we have it once a year in April. It's called Cosmic Awakening, and we are having more experiencers, and it's more lots of music involved and raising your frequency, actual doing the activations of ascension during the conference. People leave there. I'm still getting emails just from a few weeks ago going, I am still floating. I am so happy. It's not so corporate and so, strict, and this is, serious, serious, serious. We have fun. We actually we have a saying on Sirius, we like to have serious fun. So,
There you go.
but but yeah, Cosmic Awakening, it comes every once a year, and we had Corey Good one year, we had David Wilcox this year, Andrew Collins, and so a lot of people that have had experiences of actual benevolent ET encounters. I have everything pretty positive. We have enough doom and gloom
Yeah.
watching the television, so everything is very positive experience, and it raises your vibration.
Wow.
So you're walking out of there happy.
Wow. And it's running what month do you say? Last in April?
Every April, yeah,
And
in
what's the weather
Sedona.
like there in April? Is it pretty good?
Perfect. It is not too hot, not too cold. It's perfect. Next year we're doing April 24th, 25th, 26th. And Grant, you're going to be one of our speakers.
I'd be
Woo-hoo!
honored. I'd be honored. I'll do my music presentation where I'll
Wonderful.
go through all the stuff that I learned in music, because that's what people seem to be very interested in, especially if you get a crowd like that.
Yes.
And so people, if they want to sign up now, because you said that you turned away people this year. So if people want to sign up, how should they maybe make contact with you now, or have you got a mailing list that people can join?
They can sign up through my website to be on my newsletter, and I can put them on the list to, because we just finished the conference and we don't have any website up yet. So we just kind of actually working on our video CDs that we're selling, or I should say DVD downloads of the conference. And that will be available actually next week. So
Oh,
if you want to go to thunderbeat.com, you can sign up for my newsletter, and I can email you the contact information for that. So
wow. What's in your newsletter? What do you do in is that a monthly newsletter?
no, it's just things that are going on, like the conference, and I have concerts and other conferences that I do that I send out with tell people what's going on that way, and they can
You have
join the
concerts? Is
yeah
that
I have
right?
I do yeah concerts in Sedona, and everybody loves to come to Sedona. I
So
actually working on another. Go ahead.
who's at the conference? Because we tried to run one of these a couple
Concert?
years back. I don't know if you know the story. There's a guy by the name of um, now I'm going to forget his name. Michael Hessman wrote a book. Is it Hessman? Yeah, he wrote a book called Alien Rock. When I had my experience where I was given this message from the beings, that the messages in the music, and got dragged in by Neil Young and stuff. Um, he had written a book called Alien Rock, and he went through the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and Presley and all their connections to UFOs and stuff like that. And he was going to run a conference in California, and he was going to have it at Pepperdine University in Malibu, and he was going to bring in David Bowie. He was talking about bringing in the Stones, Michael Fankhauser, who's on the album that you're on, a bunch of people, and then he has a stroke and dies. So about a year ago, I tried to revive this. We were going to call it Alien Woodstock, and have a situation. So I'm glad to see you're doing this kind of thing, because apparently Stephen Greer is now going to try to do one of these things, because there's so many experiences, almost like what Joanne did with the album, where you have all these experiences together, that you have these concerts where kids really go, and they're going there to have fun or whatever, to listen, whatever, but indirectly they're getting the music, they're getting the vibration, they're getting the message. They don't realize it. So explain who do you have? Is it, and when is that run?
I'm doing, my next concert is June 22nd in Sedona, Arizona, and having my band's called Thunderbeat and the Sexy Skulls.
Wow.
And we're all sound healers and musicians all in one, so it's very activational music, definitely transforming. So that I'll be advertising soon.
So it's just your band, or do you have other bands there?
No, just that my band. It's just an evening concert.
Okay.
Um, that I'm doing. So, but I think you're talking about Michael Luckman. Is that
Michael
who?
Luckman, yeah, sorry.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
Michael
yeah.
Luckman.
I was supposed to be in his second book, and
Oh,
then
yeah,
he
that's right. You
passed.
mentioned that.
And I said I would help him put concerts together, or
Yeah.
what his dream was, and then I didn't hear from him, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe he forgot about me, and then I found out he passed, and it
Yeah.
was sad.
That was
So
very unfortunate. I was trying to find his manuscript, because when I started my manuscript, he heard I was writing a book on music. Then he said, I got enough for another book. I'm going to do another book. And that's when he started on
right,
the second book, and I guess contacted you and
yeah,
a bunch of other people. And then unfortunately, and he must have been pretty well finished, because it was quite a while when he was working on that book. And he had connections to Michael Jackson and a lot of people, because I guess he was in New York City, and had done some production and
yes,
stuff like that. So it's too bad
he
that
was in New
that
York.
we lost him. But I'm glad to see you're doing that. One of the people you might consider is Merrill Fankhauser, who's sort of near you in California. He's the one that did the song Wipeout, and it was actually stolen from him. They stole the song. I guess the Ventures ended up doing it, but he's played with a number of people. He has a song he played for John Lennon, a UFO song and stuff like that. Very interesting
Really,
people, and I think it's
I'll have to write his.
something that will
y-
come, that or if you're even doing interviews or something, because um, Merrill is a very nice guy, and he's got a lot of interesting stories, and he's known as a surf rocker. So he started the original in the 60s, the surf rocking, and he, like you, has a studio in his house, and he's got a lot of interesting stories. So hopefully these concerts continue, because it is something that does change the vibration without sort of offending people. It's almost like putting stuff on a History Channel where people can watch and nobody really knows, and they're not really taking it seriously, but yet the message is getting across. So I'm glad you're doing that. It's
Right.
especially if Stephen Greer can pull his off. He's looking at a major sort of concert with big name experiencer bands, but there are an awful lot of them. I think in my thing, I was estimating 3 dozen of the major musicians, maybe experiencers, and these are huge, like Ace Frehley from Kiss, a bunch of big
Hmm.
musicians that openly came out and said, "Yeah, I was on the ship," and or well, a bunch of them. That it's
That's
really
interesting.
interesting.
I met Ace Frehley in New York City. I used to play in rock bands there, and I remember one year I was playing a video game with him. I didn't know it was him because he didn't have his makeup on.
Oh yeah,
That was playing I was playing for about a half hour with this guy. I remember him being very tall, and then his manager came over to me and he goes, "Do you know that's Ace Frehley?" And I said, "Okay." I said, "Really?" I didn't know because they were wearing their makeup at that time, and we didn't know. No one knew what they looked like. At that was like in the late 70s, 79, 80. You know.
It's been an interesting life. I guess I go back to the question I was asking before. Like, what would you like to leave with people in terms of the most important thing that they should realize about your book, about what you think is going on that can stick with people?
Basically, you know, s- uh, step out of fear. Fear is the opposite of love,
Exactly.
and and I'm telling you, it doesn't even exist on the higher planes where, and this is where we're headed to, higher frequency. So it disappears. It slows you down. It's very dense. The fear. So to raise your vibration, and music helps. Actually, my music helps. I've released so much pain from people because fear creates pain in your physical body. It actually does. So the testimonies I've had from my chakra CD, how much it's like, wow, it's on my website. You can see the testimonies where people have tried everything to release their pain, and the music has actually done that. And I was gifted enough from being downloaded this information through the Star Family, this knowledge, through music and sound and frequency. So it's just incredibly awesome. Um,
Wow.
that's the message, where that's my mission, is to raise the frequency of the planet and Mother Earth and everything. Another thing is about frequency, of raising your frequency. Disease cannot live in a high frequency. Cancer cannot live in a high frequency zone. They call it high frequency zones. Um, they cannot. It's just impossible for it to live. So the more you raise your frequency, the healthier you are. So.
And so you raise frequency by music? Is that
Hmm.
basically
Yes.
what it is?
Yeah, I
And
have actually DVDs. I call them visual sound healing, and I have CDs. So both work very well. And if you want to take the journey, you can buy the DVDs. So I have the DVD, like the Chakra DVD. I call it visual sound healing again, and the color just really enhances the healing process uh, on the DVD, because I work with the color of the frequencies of the notes. Each note key has a color associated with it. So,
you know this synesthesia thing with have you ever you're not a synesthesic, I think they call it a synesthesia, where you see
no,
music and color at the same time. There's a woman by the name of Maureen Seberg, writes for Psychology Today, is an experiencer. She writes a lot about this, about the connection between music and color, that a certain number of musicians, I'm not sure if I did it in the book, but a lot of major musicians can see color as well as the
mhm,
sound. They
yeah,
see both at the same time.
absolutely. It's like
So
seeing auras.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that. Yeah.
Wow.
When I do in my healing work, my hands-on healing work, I can see where the disruption is in the chakras and the aura, and auras. They can have holes in your aura where uh, dark energies can come in and cause pain and disease, and um, so yeah, the activational music that I do, it actually clears out negativity from your home when you play it. It's like almost like saging your home, but it actually raises the vibration so dark energies cannot live in your home. Like let's say, for instance, you have a argument with your husband or something, and that energy is in your home. So that CD, actually 3 or 4 different CDs I have, actually release that negative energy out of your home.
Wow. My
Yeah.
assistant Desta is going to love this because she's into all this kind of stuff. She'll be I'm pretty sure she'll be in contact with you because she's very much into this. You've won a couple of awards for your CDs, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Give me
Yeah,
some
I
of
have.
the highlights of that. That
Well, the Mayan CD, I've won 2 Native American Music Awards: Best Music, Best World Music, and Best New Age. My Egyptian CD won 3 major music awards: Best Musical Soundtrack. I have written a Egyptian theatrical show or play, whatever you want to call it. So that's I won 3 music awards for that, and ZMR award for the Egyptian Sun CD. And the Chakra CD is voted #1 Chakra CD in the country. It's been out for a long time. I got a Beacon of Light award for that one. And I have to think I have were voted. I was in a band called One Heart Shamanic Journey, more Native American. We were voted #1 band in Sedona, Arizona. And we make the great music here, that's for sure, because it's high vibration here.
Wow. Well, the other thing I may have to do is link you up with my friend Doug Ault, who's a musician in New York City. He's also an artist who sort of paints and you think it looks like a photograph. I keep accusing him of posting photographs. But he's
Nice.
actually writing a Broadway musical on
Really?
UFOs. He's working on it right now, and he actually gave me his script to look through. Maybe I should get him to get you to review the script and give some insight with his music and his songs, these shows and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I would love that.
Yeah, because he's very much into this, and he's basically actually given up painting for the time being, and he is an experiencer. He's we've been very close for a couple of years talking about different issues, and I think you and he would really hit it off in terms of being on the same wavelength. That you've done this kind of material over the years. I mean, it's so extensive, the amount of material you've done. How many years have you done the music? I guess since you
40,
were what, teenager?
15, 50, actually
Yeah.
younger. I've been playing drums since I was 15, but I went to music school before that. When I was 11, I think I started. Yeah,
Wow.
all my life, pretty much all my life. But he's a musician also?
He's a musician and an artist, and really good at both. And he's composing
Nice.
all the songs, and he's got 15 or 16 songs, and the script, and he's pretty maybe halfway through, and wants to run this thing on Broadway. So I'm sure your input to him as to what you might be able to give him advice or see where he's going, I think he would really appreciate it. He's sort of coming to me, and I'm sort of like a musical idiot. And I had a couple of points on the first part of his what he showed me that sort of, you know, but I'm not really the person he should be, talking to you. So I'll link you up with that. And the final question I want to ask you, because I mentioned Meryl Fankhauser, who did the Wipeout, and you're a drummer. Did you ever do the Wipeout
Yes.
drum solo thing?
I would get that all the time when I first started playing drums. Well, let me see how good you are. Play Wipeout for me. I would get that all the time.
That's his song, and he's an experiencer. And I said, very strange that because I was a musical idiot, I never my whole family's musical. My mother was a church organist for 40 years. My father built theater organs. My sisters are both played in a group and stuff. And I never was always a talk radio guy. The only 45 I ever bought in my life was Wipeout in the
Wow.
late 60s, 70s, whenever it came out. That's the only one I ever bought. And so it's kind of weird how these synchronicities that people all line up with this thing. So I'll maybe put you in contact with Myro, because he's a very interesting guy, even just to talk to, and
Absolutely.
to link up with him, because he's an interesting guy. So we'll leave it at that, and maybe we'll have to do another one down the road once I see some of these CDs and stuff, and maybe we can even down the road maybe talk to somebody. Do you interview your people that you're coming to your conference? Do you ever do any interviews with your conference people?
Yes, we do.
Good. Okay.
Yes.
Because I'd like to link up when it comes up to sort of highlight your conference again, because I think it's important that people know who's going to be there, because a lot of people, for example, may hear your name, but they don't know who you are. But once they see an interview with you, then they'll say, "Oh, that woman looks pretty interesting. I think I'd like to go and listen to her speak." I think that's we've had some, as I mentioned, I think before there were some conferences where people were bringing in big names in Europe and stuff like that, but in America, nobody knew who they were. And
Right.
so I'm glad you do the interviews, and I'm glad it's successful, and I'm looking forward to coming to
Well,
Sedona, and if you want me to do the music lecture, I definitely will do that because it's
absolutely. Well, we're working on getting Stephen Greer, like you were mentioning, and Emery Smith for next year. So that we'll
okay.
see what they say. So, but SedonaCosmicAwakening.com tickets should be available. We're not going to have everything up, but like I said, you can go to thunderbeat.com and sign up for my newsletter, and I'll get you that information when tickets are available and what's going on at that time. So yeah.
Wow. You've been a total pleasure and very knowledgeable, and I think I learned more than you learned from me, and I'm very appreciative of the work that you've done, and whatever I can do to help you down the road, you let me know, because we're on the same wavelength. When you start talking oneness and fear and all this kind of stuff, you're talking the same language I'm talking, and
Yeah.
I think we have a common mission. So whatever I can do to help you, just let me know.
Yes, and vice versa. I'm so glad and proud of you for doing this work, and thank you for this work, because it is so needed to get out there, this knowledge and information, and it's a big wake up call for everybody. So thank you, thank you.
Beautiful. It's like I always say to people, if you realize what's going on, you realize you're in the Super Bowl of all stories, and you should say thank you 3 times every day. So I say thank you that I had a chance to talk to you and get some material from you that adds to my life. Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you too. All right. Bye, Grant.
Okay, I've cut it off.